discussed the what we wanted to how the design would look, and then we wanted to hide the back. So basically, form follows function, and
So go into that about how form follows function, because okay, you have basically a whole mess of chips and wires and a screen and that sort of thing, and how much leeway do you have to come up with something that looks clean and attractive? What sort of process do you go through?
actually we have to collaborate with the engineers, know the specs, and then from there we develop the design.
When you were doing that process, was it something that you could look to anything locally in terms of a model? Because of course, the famous designers for all of these things are, let's say, Apple or the Korean companies or Sony, that sort of thing. But I'm sure they're not sharing their secrets and processes with us. So how did you work it out?
Well, we wanted to be unique, so we developed I don't know, something new.
Was it actually, for example, carving big pieces of plastic, or do you do it on software or
Well,
that sort of thing?
we do it on software. We first draw it, and then we use this software, and then we design from there.
Okay, now you're dealing with a piece of electronic equipment,
Yes.
and that means your engineers have to work with pieces with the nuts and bolts that are readily available in the market. So how did you work that out?
Well, we first discussed what do we want inside the Illumina, just to show as a proof of concept. So these are not the ideal specs. So from there, with the necessary equipment, we looked at second-hand equipment, and that was because of Noriel now getting the equipment and putting them all together and making them.
Why second-hand equipment?
Because as a startup and an entrepreneur, we had no money, but we had to do this. So we had to really scrap for money, look for spare parts, look for second-hand equipment, just to put them together and make them work.
We actually just had to put together a proof of concept. That was the very important critical step. You know, we couldn't let it stay just a design or a drawing. We had to bring it to market in whatever way we could. Basically, we had to build this thing in order for us just to get started. So that was very important.
How did you solve the problem? Because the question everyone has, whether it's a cell phone that has a camera and all sorts of, and can do the internet and do email and all that sort of stuff, how do you get it to be a jack of all trades and yet avoid being a master of none? I mean, that's always a question with something like this.
Yeah, well, I'll try and answer that question and add to that. Yes. Well, the jack of all trades. I guess the master that we want to portray here is the master of making things simple in someone's living room. The I stands for interactive, because we want the LCD not just to be an LCD TV, not just to be thinner or has a glow light, but we want it to be very interactive because we know it can go beyond that. So the LCD ITV is a collaboration, and the one thing we want to press is the ability to do more than just watch TV.
Okay, now this brings in your software designer, because he has to do the interface, right, that people will be using with the thing, and we'll be demonstrating it later. But let me ask you a theoretical question, which is there sort of a universal approach to how you tinker with any sort of appliance, or is there a particularly Filipino problem of we prefer icons, or we like menus or pressing buttons? How did you guys work this out? I mean, to be able to, so that people who don't know anything about it cannot feel intimidated by it, for example.
Okay, just let me explain. We used open source software to jumpstart everything, because if we build everything from scratch, it would take us how many years? Who knows? Okay, so we are using actually Linux operating system, and we just took the icons from common interfaces out there. So
you weren't trying to reinvent the wheel.
No,
you know
no.
that everyone of a certain age at least is familiar with certain icons that do certain functions.
Yes.
You weren't trying to do coding from the ground up, but rather using computer code that has already been sort of vetted.
Yes, we
around the world.
integrated several open source projects and then put them together there. So the result would be an interface that would be familiar to the users.
Okay, so from the time that this all started coming together, what sort of, I'm sure there's debugging, and then you guys who do the hardware part of it have to make sure it doesn't blow up and burn the house down, and that it can stay on all day, and then the design that it doesn't melt when things are on. How long did it work out, and what are the processes you worked through, and is someone writing all of this down so that it's not just sort of ad hoc all the time?
Well, to sum it up, it was basically ready, shoot, aim. And we just, like what Mark said, we just had to get started. And we just fixed everything as we went along. And there were many problems, like you mentioned. And it took us 4 months from beginning to end to make it. And
4 months from your light bulb moment to having this thing that we're going to be demonstrating?
no, the 4 months was the actual making of the product na. Yeah.
Starting from your light bulb moment, how long was it?
That was in November of 2007.
Okay, so about close to 2 years now, basically,
A
or
little over a year.
a little over a year.
Yeah.
And how much have you spent?
Well, I'd say probably close to 55 to 60,000 pesos.
Okay, and this is a one-off demonstration device. Is there a formal name for what you call these demonstration devices? There's a
It's an alpha prototype.
yeah.
We call it an alpha prototype. It's a proof of concept. Basically, we had to just work with the parts that we could actually put together. But this is not yet the ideal specs that we want. We have it in our head, really, what we really want the final product to
What do you really want?
Well, in terms of the specs, for example, the hard drive, the 1 terabyte hard drive, that's still not yet integrated into this prototype. Of course, you wanted the more integrated keyboard and mouse, the human interface devices also. So, and also some parts on the hardware that actually want Val and Noriel to talk about. But even on the interface, we feel that, we have a proof of concept, but it's still quite far from where we want to be. But, as we keep on saying, we just have to get started somewhere.
Okay, so the whole idea of this device, so let's get all of that out of the way before we do the sort of fancy show and tell, is it has a TV. So you can watch free TV
Yes.
and cable TV
Yes.
on it using an LCD screen,
Yes.
so that you don't have the old-fashioned cathode ray tube. It can access the internet. How?
Yeah. LAN cable or Wi-Fi.
Okay. And at the same time, you can play VCD, DVDs
You
on
can
it,
download videos as well.
MP3s,
Yes.
all the stuff that we tend to use. And it's controlled by a keyboard
And a remote control as
And a
well.
remote control.
and a remote control, so that basically someone more comfortable with the remote, will you be able to, for example, use this for email and for browsing the
It
web?
has a browser.
Yes,
Yeah,
it has a
also
browser.
And ideally, at what price point would this be entering?
Well, we really want to, hopefully we want to hit the 5-digit mark. So we don't want to exceed 90,000 pesos with the initial launch of the Illumina.
Okay, but at 90,000 pesos, why would anyone want to spend 90,000 pesos for something that does a little bit of everything, but how could you say that it does anything particularly well?
Well, I guess when it comes out, then people will start learning how to use it. And I guess we want to first tap the techies. Second, we want to tap those people who just like it because it's cool. And
No, by doing that, you're tapping into actually the whole sort of logic that all tech stuff goes through, right? That it's actually starts at something very expensive, and the more people adopt it, and the more it's refined, it gets cheaper and
Yes.
cheaper. So you have to sort of start with it as a prestige product.
yes.
We're really looking at early adopters here. And that would really be actually the techies. I'd buy it with no bias. I mean, if it came out, I wasn't part of it, I'd buy it. It solves a lot. And actually, when we launch it, I have this picture of what my setup looks like right now, and it's a mess. And you have my PC here, you have my Mac Mini here, you have my home theater, then my LCD. But a product that solves all of that basically is something I would, as a consumer, be looking for. Add to that the design. I mean, there's nothing out there that looks like this. And here's where you see really the power of the design
Let
part.
me ask our audience here.
Yeah.
Does this not look like anything you've seen, or what does it look like to you guys? They're giving us sort of diplomatic answers. No, feel free to. Okay, we're going to go back to that. Now, when we come back, we're going to do the actual show and tell so that so you see what all this theoretical stuff has been all about.